but it's what you do with them that really matters. So like my father with the Irish thing, right? Okay, Pop, can't be saying that, and hope you're not saying that in any of the little meetings or gatherings you're going to, but, you know, I'm aware of that, and I won't be biased against that. So you can be a pro-bias and you can be a negative bias. So, you know, it's all these kinds of conversations we would have with our managers. It wouldn't just, we typically don't do this type of thing. It's really very interactive generally, so that we can engage people and really hear what they have to say and their voice. Then we went on to integrating it into management. And then, you know, again, how do we strategically embed it globally? Because we have a lot of companies or schools or whatever that are here in the U.S. and might have a school in China, you might have a school in Russia, and say, hey, I want to make sure that we have the same thing over there as you have here. So it's really made us go and say, okay, how do we make this all global to make sure that we have equals so that we can serve all our clients? And then really we're about inclusion for breakthrough right now. It's like, okay, so we've been at this for 13 years, and we kind of reached the pinnacle 2 years ago. It's like, okay, we're at the tippy top. How do you stay there, right? Just because I train everybody doesn't mean everybody's going to get it. It's okay, it's good. It's that constant reinforcement. It's that constant conversation versus confrontation. And then we had some key elements, right? So when we looked at the matrix of how we're going to do this, there was all these steps that we took. And we had to have that top-down buy-in. If the CEO and the senior leaders did not buy into this, it didn't matter what was going to happen, because let me tell you, people can see through that. Just like when I would go out and do training and facilitation for this, people could tell if I was real or if I was some talking head from corporate. But when I would share my story and share my experiences, like, oh, she's real. She's not just some talking head from corporate telling us what we have to do. So the senior leadership really bought into that. And then we evolved. So we kind of had that top down. My role was to get to the middle, the managers in the field, like the Bens of the world and his team, get to the middle. And then we have this bottom up thing. How do we get the people, not necessarily at the lower grades, but how do we get the groundswell of people that want to volunteer to do something and say, hey, let me raise my hand. I want to get involved to do something around this. And you'll see how this has evolved. So it is an investment in our people. We have 22 people in the Office of Diversity, and we bring in 0 income. We are strictly overhead. So imagine, right? Company with very small margins, employing 22 people, many at a fairly significant level. And how do we do that? And so little by little, one by one, we've changed the culture in this company. You know, it becomes a great recruiting tool for us. I used to do onboarding for our managers grade 9 and above. And I'd say, so what brought you to Sodexo? Diversity and inclusion. I like what you do. I like what you stand for. When we were forming Pride, right, as she alluded earlier, that you know, I was the first chair, and when I went to Rohini and we were starting these groups, and I said, hey, did you ever think to do anything about LGBT? And she says, oh, Denise, we are not ready for that. And I thought, oh, good, because I'm not ready for that either, right? Because nobody knew I was gay. But I thought, you know, the company's moving, somebody's got to step it up. And a year later, she tapped 15 of us on the shoulder that probably had that similar conversation, stuck us in a room in Gaithersburg, Maryland, and we formed Pride. And when the first Pride annual report came out, and Kim and I were on the cover of Pride, and it went to all our clients, we had 2 of our universities call up and said, if you don't take that out, we're canceling the contract. So Rohini calls me up, little old me, calls me up, says, hey, Denise, we got a call from such and such schools. They said, if we don't take this out, we're canceling the contract. We're going in. Bob, the head of legal, and I are going in. This is what we're going to say. She said to me, are you okay with that? I thought, oh my gosh, right? So you think this massive company, why would she care what I think? But she didn't. And do you know we walked away from those 2 schools? We would not compromise who we were, right? You know, so as an employee working for this big company, my first 13 years, I could not bring my whole self to work. And I was a good employee. So imagine once we literally came out of that proverbial closet, what the ramifications were that. But we knew we would be protected. We knew we weren't going to lose our job. We knew we were going to be met with opposition. Well, that's okay. somebody's got to take the risk, and if not us, then who? And so we did. So I guess that's why I'm somewhat loyal to the company after 24 years and hope to finish out my career however long until they decide to toss me out. I still got a lot of gas left in my tank, so I'm not going anywhere, but there's just a great opportunity. And so when you work for a company as big as this is, that you can feel appreciated and people know who you are, you're not just some number, it makes a big difference, right? So here's some of the awards that we've won. And you're thinking, oh, well, good for you. But these awards are not easy to come by, right? It's not like, well, let's just apply, or let's give some money and we'll get an award. Many of these awards, the Diversity Inc. Diversity Inc. comes out every year, and you have to choose to apply. And so we are the only company in the 15-year history of Diversity Inc. to be in the top 5, number 1 and 2, 4 years in a row. Only company. And we're up against the big Fortune 100 companies. And just because we got there this year, doesn't mean we're going to be there next year. Because they raise the bar every year. Say, okay, you're doing good this year, well now you need to do more. And you need to do more. So it helps to challenge us to say, to stay ahead, because it's easy to kind of get comfortable, say, hey, things are going good, let's just kind of go with the flow here and let's not do anything else. So that's a big coup for us. There is nobody in our industry not even close to where we are. So I truly believe we walk the talk and talk the talk, and that's important. The other one that's very important is the Catalyst Award, and that was back in 2012, and it's not an award that you apply for every year. It's like a big deal to apply for this thing. It takes a lot of resources to gather all the data and submit everything. And so we made it into the finals. And then they said, okay, we want to have one-on-ones with people, we want groups, we want this, we want that, and I got to sit in one of the groups as a participant, and so there was 2 people in the back typing everything, every word that everybody said. And there was a woman in the front as the facilitator. And so the last question she asked, and again, we just randomly pick people. You can't go around and say, okay, you're going for this award, so this is the things you're going to take. There's no way we could do it. So we picked managers within a 2-hour radius of Maryland. And so the last question she asked, she says, well, how would you feel if Sodexo won the award? And I'll never forget the looks on their faces. Everybody kind of sat up in their chairs, like so proud. And they answered the question, and I was watching her because I did enough facilitation to know that, boy, she was taken aback by their response. Because they felt like it was their award. It wasn't like, hey, good for Sodexo, that's wonderful, what does it mean to me? But people truly felt that diversity and inclusion was moving along the right way, that was helping them to do whatever they needed to do to be better leaders. So that's a couple of the awards that we have won, and we continue to apply, and this really kind of validates who we are, right? Also with the Human Rights Campaign, the first year that Pride was out there, we got an 84. And we came back and we thought, oh, that's pretty good, 84, we're just right out of the gate. And the head of HR said, what do we need to do to get 100? And we had to change a couple of corporate policies. Change the policies, we've had 100% every time. Have you ever gone on to look on the Corporate Equality Index? Very interesting, go in there and see what companies and what their ratings are. So as a gay person, I'm not spending my money with any company that does not value their employees. And I remember a few years ago, I was looking to buy a car. And I went on to look at Nissan, and Nissan had a 0, which meant they did not value their employees. So how would I spend my hard-earned money to a company that does not care about their employees? But I looked at Chrysler, I looked at Ford, I'm like, okay, they're up there, they've got ratings. You know, companies you would think would be a high rating had very low ratings. So again, you know, especially in the gay communities, like $10 billion a year in spend, we're going to be selective where we spend our money. So again, it's very important to us as a company because again, as whoever you are, if you want to know that you're going to be treated fairly and equally, if you work for this company. So we made some strong commitments here. We wanted to increase senior leaders because back 13 years ago, all our senior leaders were white males. That was it, all white males. So now we have a CEO in the US, female, global CEO, female. We have minorities, we have certainly changed the landscape. And it wasn't like, well, we got to get 3 of these and 2 of those. It's not about that. We want to find the best qualified candidates. We have to be open to the possibilities. You can't judge people by how they look, right? So often in our industry, they say, well, they don't have campus experience, so they wouldn't fit in. When I went to run George Mason University, I never worked on a college campus. Hadn't been in operations for 5 years. But darn it, I figured it out real quick. Right? It's food, it's people, I can figure it out. You know, what I don't know, I can make up in my relationship building, and so that's what can get you through. We also want to increase the number of women in operations. We do a lot of facility management, from grounds and housekeeping to HVAC to all of that. How do we get more women? They're out there. How do we attract them to Sodexo? Because we want women in operations. Just like me being a district manager, to be a female in operations is what we really want to drive for. So we need to develop those people, right? Just can't say, well, we need people, and people just show up. We have to make sure that they're ready for those positions. And create a culture of inclusion, right? If we can do that, then we can conquer all. So how do we gain commitment? So I know it's a bit of an eye chart, but it just shows you that, if nothing else from this, and I hate when people say that, oh, it's just an eye chart, so why do you put it up there? I don't know, because that's the slide they gave me. But at the end of the day, it shows that there's a lot of people involved, right? It's not one person, it's not one senior leader making decisions around diversity and inclusion at Sodexo. So you've got senior leaders, you have HR leadership. We actually have an external advisory board for diversity, from people that work from different companies who advise us to say, hey, maybe this is not the path you want to go, this is the way you want to go. And then when you look at that middle out and the bottom up, those are all the volunteers. Those are the people like me that raised my hand to be a part of Pride and say, hey, I want to help, I want to make a difference, what can I do? And so that's what's really built the company. Because when people like me and Ben say, hey, I want to do something, right, above and beyond my day job. So had I not probably been the chair of Pride and being involved with Pride, maybe I wouldn't have gotten the diversity and inclusion director job. But when I went to sit for that interview, I could talk about campus because that was my current job, and I had all this work I've done with Pride and all the other things I did. Maybe she's a good candidate. You know, like I said to somebody earlier, what separates you from somebody else? Right? You know, especially those of you that are in NSMH, right? You're going for that interview, okay, you're in SMH, you've got all this experience, but what have you done differently than somebody else? Because sometimes it's that little thing that can separate you from somebody else, even though everybody's qualified, but there's always that deciding factor. So these people that have volunteered have gotten exposure to the senior leaders in the company where they would have never. That's why I know most of these senior leaders is because of the work I did with Pride, not necessarily from my other jobs that I had. So I got to sit in meetings and sit around the table, and they'd say to us, so what do you need? When they were thinking about domestic partner benefits, I sat on a committee, they said, what do you want? I said, well, I want what everybody else has. They said, okay, we got what everybody else has. So you've had domestic partner benefits for many, many years. Because again, it's the right thing to do, right? And if we're going to treat our people with respect and be able to give them what they need to bring their whole self to work, then that's what we need to do. So in addition to Pride, we have 9 groups. So these are all grassroots efforts. These are employees waving their hands saying, hey, I want to start a group. And you don't have to be of that group to belong. And often people say to me, what group should I belong to? I say, well, join one that you're passionate about, or join one you know nothing about, because what a great environment to learn from people, right? These are a safe environment, because let me tell you, so when we formed Pride, right? So here we all came out of the closet, we didn't know one another. Everybody thinks we got the secret handshake, we didn't know, right? People came from all over the country, and us 15 sat in the room, but we didn't know anything about the T. And we thought, oh, T, so we know the G-L-B, but what about the T? And so I'll never forget, we got a woman, Donna Rose, who was an unbelievable human being, transgender, and we brought her to corporate headquarters. And she did a talk. And there's a CEO, anybody in the room was open to anybody that wanted to go. And she told her story, right? Can't argue with a story. And answered any questions that people had. And not only did she do that, she invited all of us out that evening with 6 other transgender friends that were at all different spots in the journey. And it was such a learning experience because it was safe, right? Just because I'm gay doesn't mean I know everything about the gay community, right? We're always still learning. So again, it just brought this great opportunity. And now, we had 2 managers recently told their other companies that they wanted to transition, and 2 weeks later they got their pink slip. So again, what you do in your personal life is your personal life, but when I say when you're in the work environment, it's all about work, right? We're all equal. Doesn't matter religion, background, we're all the same. And so they have come to Sodexo because we treat everybody the same. It's like, if you want to transition, we will help you do that. I have some K through 12 schools call up and say, we know we're having a transgender student coming next year, can you help us? What do we do? How do we deal with the bathrooms? What are the things that we need to do? So again, we've become this resource for people as we're out there. So these groups have been out there, and the